Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Tuesday night life recovery group. It has been a couple of beautiful days. I was so appreciative yesterday with the sunshine, and it just seemed like a real unique, clear, crystal day. And I think when I experience that within the weather, it also helps my soul, it helps my mind, it helps my vibe. So I can't forget when those days happen, because some days it's rainy and cold and gloomy. But at the end of the day, if I am taking care of what's going on inside of me, what's going on outside of me won't affect me, but it will always impact me. And I think there's a difference between being affected and infected by something. I'm always going to be affected with an A, but at the end of the day, I don't want to be infected with the things that are going on around me. I'm hearing, and I think we're all struggling. We're all struggling to a certain extent because we are in a new season with COVID-19 and have been now for going on nearly 7 to 8 weeks. But I'm hearing about a lot of people struggling and relapsing. People that were working a program and doing their thing. That's why how it works is rarely have we seen a person fail that has thoroughly followed our steps, our path. And at the end of the day, man, this thing called addiction is cunning, baffling, and powerful. And it just breaks my heart, because I could be one of those people if I do not work a program. And the people that I am seeing that are struggling are great people, and everyone's a good person. But at the end of the day, when you're working a program and you're doing your best and you still relapse, that's a real challenge. But it really should give you a reflection of if that does happen to you. We don't want it to happen to you. I don't want it to happen to me. But if it does happen, it's not that you were doing everything wrong. You just needed to really make some adjustments, either through how you're being sponsored, how transparent you are about what you're thinking and feeling. If you see yourself starting to isolate and living in regret or maybe fear of the future, those are things that you need to be talking to people about. And beyond addiction, within mental health, which I think coincide together. I have mental health challenges. Mental health is a real struggle right now as well, with the stay-at-home order and social distancing and things of that nature. I was thinking about it when this whole thing began. If you're an addict and you're a practicing addict right now, and if you were anything like me when I had my hustle on. My hustle included running the streets and selling things and selling drugs. That has got to be a real challenge right now for addicts. And then I thought, as I was going to the cabin last weekend, and I drove by the casino, I think about all the gambling addicts. Now, granted, there's ways you can still gamble and ways you still can drink and drug, but it's totally shifted. I can't even imagine the hell that addicts are going through right now. Addiction is always hell. But when your fix is going to the casino and the casinos are shut down, that's hell. When part of your routine is getting hotel rooms and things of that nature and it's not as accessible, or your racket was fencing or being a thief in the malls, and that's how you got your Jones on and your fix on, where you'd go and steal things, and now everything's shut down. I am so grateful I'm sober right now, because I can't even imagine the hell that active addiction is portraying right now. I can't even imagine the hell of what people are going through. I come to find that a man that is a high-level servant struggled with a recent addiction, a great man, a nice man, and it really scared me. And it scared me to the level of he can relapse, anyone can relapse. And no one is exempt from going back. So it doesn't matter if you got 10 days or 10 years. It's a daily reprieve contingent on your spiritual condition. And you have a community that is here to help. The AA community, the NA community, the CMA, the SA, the GA. If you struggle with eating and things of that nature, there are networks that may be a little harder to find these days, but they're still there. And I remember my times in the street when dope was hard to find, I still found it. So when it seems as if recovery is hard to find right now because you can't meet in person, it's still there and you can find it. And that's why we, Serenity Village, haven't stopped doing our Tuesday night meeting. We haven't stopped for 16 years. We, in turn, have amped up through our SV Life Recovery Facebook page. I mean, if you're on that, you can see testimonies of people in our community that will give you hope. Because if they can do it, you can do it. I just saw Stace's yesterday, and it was powerful. See, it's important to understand that you're not alone. It's important you understand that there is a we that is here for you. And unless you tap into the we of the program where God works through people, you're not going to be sober. Just like you couldn't get drunk until you tapped into alcohol. You couldn't get high until you tapped into heroin, meth, pills. You couldn't even get high until you tapped into cocaine, marijuana, whatever it is for you. Well, you can't gamble until you tap into gambling. If you're a sex addict, you can't be in that addiction unless you tap into pornography or acting out. So it's no different than addiction, and within recovery that you have to tap into it, and you have to be part of the we of the program. You cannot recover in isolation. You cannot recover thinking that you're unique and no one will understand you. You cannot recover thinking that you're beyond hope. And I'm going to teach you about that tonight. There is no one beyond hope when it comes to Jesus. There is no one that can't get sober. It's a choice. It doesn't matter how far down the path you have gone and how many times you have relapsed and how much you have lost. What matters is how hungry are you? I remember all those years ago that I had lost more than I ever thought I could lose, but I knew I still had hope because I saw hope in the we. I saw hope in the we of the program. I listened to what you said and how you did it and what it took to get it back and what it took to keep it and what it took to evolve from it. And those are all things that are available to you. And a reason why a person wouldn't work a program, and I don't even think they're dealing with it on a conscious level, is they don't think they're worth it. They have so much self-hatred and so much regret and so much shame and remorse, they'll never admit it, but that's why a person doesn't work a program. And a lot of that is unconscious. And what you'll see in that person is a lot of pride, a lot of ego, which is kind of the polar opposite of guilt and shame. And that's how we know that we're lost internally. But I'm here to tell you tonight that there is hope. No matter where you are and what you've done, there is still hope. And the choice is yours. The choice is yours is if you will work a recovery program. And that's up to you. But we're here for you. We're here for you. And whatever you need, if it's in our means to give it to you, we'll give it to you. And let me tell you something. We're nobodies. If you admit you're a nobody, God will turn you into a somebody in the kingdom. And he takes a bunch of nobodies and he does miraculous things. I was very proud of you last Tuesday. I said to you the previous Tuesday, the offering was about 25% of what it was the week before. And last week, you gave more. You didn't get up to where you were, but you gave more, which allows us to continue And maybe you're a recipient of the food that's being distributed in this parking lot. And it's a huge amount of food. And what I've learned about myself, and I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but prior to COVID-19, when I would go into treatment centers and give a 12-step message, I went into the treatment centers so I don't have to go back to treatment. I go to the jails because I want to stay out of jail and give a Bible study. We feed the shelters in the streets because I don't want to live in a shelter again, and I don't want to be on the street again. So tonight I'm challenging you to go all in, not only in your recovery, but to do something that's not about you. And I understand that each and every one of you are in different places in life, but all of you have something to give. So tonight I'm going to play a video of week 7 of COVID-19 of what this community has done for the greater community. And again, I used to be a menace to society, and now we're a solution to society. Look at God work. A bunch of addicts are feeding the masses, and you can be part of that. And I'm asking you to give financially, as it says on the bottom of the screen. See, when I take care of the community, God takes care of me. When I take care of people, God takes care of me. And God can take care of you or me better than anyone else can do it on this planet. But He has called us to take care of them. And you have an opportunity to do that tonight. And I always challenge you, what did you spend on drugs, alcohol, gambling, and sex on a daily, and what are you willing to give to what God is doing? Take a look at this video. We started the drive-through, and you know, maybe it was 100 cars would come through, and then like the second time you guys did it, I mean, we had to form 2 lines, and then we did it a third time, and then the fourth time we did the massive food distribution where they literally waited for hours to get food, and then we did it a second time where it got even bigger. But what changes, Kylie, did you have to make to accommodate the need?
There's a great need in the area as far as the food distribution goes that comes to here. So being able to take that food, be able to return it around logistically and then get it back out to the people. We had to figure out how to set up, different departments, if you will, within the food distribution. So the intake or the need, as far as the call center that you've had a real talk with, to be able to be responsible for people so they're not waiting 4 hours like you listed, right? We want to make sure that people are getting in and out of here.
When I'm serving and I look at people, I don't look at just the person that I'm seeing in the car. I look around them, see their environment, and see that there's more to them.
Volunteers are stepping up. People are working really well with each other.
He'll give you His love. And what will happen when you receive that love, that nothing can separate you from, you'll learn how to love you. He's got something for you. Isaiah 45, God is calling you out of the old way you used to live into the new way, His way.
And I've been so confident since I realized these things that my Father's with me and I'm going to be able to get through whatever comes my way.
The days of hiding in the pews are over. There's a reformation going on in the church right now that is going to be absolutely incredible. And me as the leader of this church, I got problems. And I'm okay to say it. But my God is bigger than my problems.
Just make an appointment, you come through, and it's quick and fast, and it helps out my family.
It starts with you, but it doesn't end at you. And if we truly, in this time, want to be pillars for people in our lives and for the world and our community, it starts inside.
Every single morning, I would just say, good morning, it's gonna be an amazing day, get out there and move your body and drink your water, and you've got this team. And it was a 2 to 3 minute video of just speaking life into them, and that's all they wanted. and then they just thrived all day long.
I'm just gonna do it. And then once I commit, that's it. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do a good job. And this was a huge step out of my comfort zone.
Well, as far as the water intake was huge. You know, my heartburn's gone now. I've never not taken something for heartburn, so that was excellent. You know, my energy level's been up, my sleep's been better.
But this got me out of my shell, and it didn't just get me back on social media. It literally gave me something to look forward to every day. It gave me something to think about. It gave me something to feel good about. It gave me hope again.
And it's just been a huge blessing, not only to watch this ministry grow, but to be the hands and feet of Jesus and to help as many people as possible. And we're just so thankful for Serenity Village Church.
Absolutely.
For partnering with us and allowing us to come and, like, you know, bombard your grounds and take all your stuff to help bring it across town.
Because we built the foundation of the information that NA and AA have provided to us. So we got the foundation intact. And if you need any of this information, just put a comment down that we went through over the last 6 weeks. It humbles me to think about how this started 16 years ago and with the vision. It humbles me to see the progress over the last 16 years, that it started very small and very bleak and a lot of dreams and a lot of vision and not many people or resources. And year by year, we continued to stay planted and do the things that God had called us to do, and didn't do them perfectly at times. If ever, never did it perfectly, but at times, you know, fell down and did our thing and learned and loved people and gave to people and carried the message of the recovery of the 12 steps. And then 7 years ago, started our own church, and they let us rent it on Sunday nights. And 3-4 years ago, bought our own building and renovated the entire building and absorbed another church, and then ran 2 services and began to have huge community events like Village Fest, where 5,000 people would come on grounds. We'd have live music, and we'll continue to do so. And Kylie implemented a golf tournament for fundraising, and AA teaches us it's progress, not perfection. And giving it your best by doing better is your perfect. Let me say that again. Giving it your best by doing better is your perfect. And I think about how addiction got my best. It got the best of every area of my life. It got the best of my finances. It got the best of my family. It got the best of my career. It got the best of my time, my talent. So if I would give addiction my best, why would I hesitate to give God my best? Why would I hesitate to give recovery, which is God, my best? And I believe that's an unconscious battle that every addict has going on from within. And the title of tonight's message is The Fear of freedom. The fear of freedom. Why would somebody be afraid to get free? Why would somebody get afraid and be afraid to get sober? Because freedom and sobriety, now, don't mistake the two. Sobriety isn't always freedom. Sobriety could be, I put the plug in the jug, I'm not doing dope, I stopped going to the casino, and I haven't looked at porn in a while. But you're still a mess inside. You're still uncomfortable in your own skin. Freedom is when the why of the feelings and thoughts and past and guilt and shame, the why behind the what of addiction is gone. You get freedom by working steps 1 through 11. And then freedom is having had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps. I tried to carry the message and to practice these principles in all my affairs. That's freedom. So you have to ask yourself the question tonight, are you just sober or are you free? And I commend you for being sober. But my experience and the experience of probably over 10,000 people in 16 years that have come and gone through our programs is if you're just going to be sober, you most likely won't stay sober. Because if you have all the thoughts and feelings and shame and regret and shortcomings and character defects and unforgiveness, fears and resentments running wild within your thoughts and feelings in your life, that's a hard life. And for me, a hard life internally made me do hard drugs externally. So Lord, tonight I ask you, first I thank you for another day above ground and out of prison. I ask that you think through my mind and speak through my vocal cords. Lord, I ask that you reach people tonight through your word that haven't been reached before. That they abolish, with your help, this fear of freedom, this false evidence appearing real, this forget everything and run mentality. And Lord, you touch them right where you need to, in the center of their heart. Lord, I ask for forgiveness of all the things that are in me that are not of you, and I receive it in Jesus' name. Lord, do whatever you're going to do tonight, and do it as you always do it, extremely well. In your name we pray, amen. So, this fear of freedom. And I want to talk to you about storms. I want to talk to you about storms because I think you're accustomed to the storms that you see externally caused by your addiction. But those external storms would never be storms unless you first had a storm going on from within you. In Mark 4, as we talk about the fear of freedom, Jesus taught some parables from a boat to the people that were on land. And after he got done talking to the people and teaching them about freedom, he stayed on the water, and he more or less was going to travel to the other side. And when Jesus says to the disciples that we're going to cross over to the other side, it's not a statement, it's a promise. See, it's not if you can get sober, it's a promise you can get sober if you do it his way. And we also want to know that the people in this boat with Jesus were disciples, and some of which were professional fishermen, and they had seen storms before, and others most likely had fished. So the first question I have for you tonight is, are you going to cross over? This is where we are. And you don't have to be using drugs or alcohol, gambling, or sex to be in addiction. The ism is still there until you work the steps. The fiend of a dope fiend can still be in a person with the dope being absent from the person. So you have to make a conscious decision to cross over into recovery. Because it's real dark on this side of your life. And as you cross over into freedom, it takes a lot of work. But the more you work the steps, the freer you become, and the brighter your life will be. So you have to make a decision to cross over into sobriety and then freedom. Could it be that you're sober and still addicted? Still got the isms and the fiend mentality? Yet the booze and the plug is in the jug, but the fiend is still running wild. See, this addiction thing, you can't just sit in it once the dope is gone, because if you're not willing to cross over out of the darkness into the light, into your freedom, or are you afraid to get free? Are you afraid to get free because it comes with accountability and responsibility and transparency and authenticity? It's almost like it's easier to stay addicted. This fear of freedom and this storm that's going on within us. So they get in the boat and they start out leaving the crowds behind. See, if you're going to cross over, you got to leave the old life behind. If you're going to cross over, you're going to have to leave the fantasy behind. You're going to have to leave the fantasy behind if you're going to cross over. You're going to have to leave the dope house. You can't fantasize about the dope house. You're going to have to leave the dope house. You're going to have to leave the bar stool. Because if you don't cross over, you're going to be back in those very places. So they crossed over, and the majority of the people stayed where they were, and some followed, but soon a storm, a fierce storm. Let me tell you something. Recovering from addiction is fierce. Recovering from addiction is not easy. And you will experience just as many storms in your recovery as you did in your addiction. The high waves were breaking into the boat and filled with water. Jesus was sleeping. Sometimes in early recovery, you think that God isn't there. Sometimes when you're working the steps early on in recovery, you're looking for a feeling. And let me tell you, faith isn't a feeling. So the storm came up, and let me tell you, the storm is from within in early recovery. It's going to be a storm. It's going to be tough. It's hard to believe in God more than you believe in yourself. It's a storm within to make a decision to turn your will and your life over to the care of God. It's a real storm when you make a searching and fearless moral inventory of yourself. It's a storm in early recovery when you have to work a 4-step and they give you a timeline to do it. But it really rains and it gets real tough when you have to admit to God, yourself, and another human being the exact nature of your own. Oh, it storms from within when you have to do that. And it keeps raining as it may appear internally when you become entirely ready to have God remove your defects of character and humbly ask Him to remove your shortcomings. You're going to experience a storm from within when you're working steps 1 through 9. But it's really going to be tough when you got to become willing to look at all the people that you have harmed. It's really going to feel like it's pouring then. It's really going to be pouring then. And then, after you talk to your sponsor about your list, and you got to get up and make direct amends wherever possible, except would injure them or others. There's a storm going on within you. You see, there is a storm going on within you. But it's the type of storm that you're waking Jesus up. Because He won't always do it for you. He would rather do it with you. So the disciples woke Jesus up. And after you do and walk through the storm of steps 1 through 9, you get the promises and it calms down. You see, when you're willing to work through the storm, after step 9, you start to see the promises and it quits raining. And now you continue to take personal inventory, and not if, when you are wrong, because wrong don't feel right. Don't forget you already walked through the storm of steps 1 through 9. And you sought through prayer and meditation now to improve. It's calm now. See, a lot of addicts never make it to the calm. A lot of addicts, they're in the storm and they're stuck in the storm and they never work the steps. But when you get to 10, 11, and 12, there's a calm. And you know there's a calm Because you're not praying for your wants and your needs anymore. You're only praying for the knowledge of His will and the power to carry it out. And let me tell you something. There's a calm of peace that I'm feeling right now when you have that spiritual awakening. So, it's worth it to walk through the storm of steps 1 through 9. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, as a result of the storm, and let me tell you, people, it's a storm from within, but it's also now a calm from within. Because when you have the calm from within, no matter what life throws at you, you remain calm. And now you're so calm after the storm that you can practice these principles in all of your affairs. So here's what happened in this storm. Jesus calmed the storm, and Jesus asked them, "Why are you so afraid?" So the question I have for you tonight is, why are you so afraid of your freedom? Why are you so afraid of your freedom? And he says, why do you doubt? So the question I have for you tonight is, well, why do you doubt if you can get free? Because if Jeff Hill can do it, that crackhead, you can do it. If Kylie Benson can do it, you can do it. And I could give you hundreds of names. What are you afraid of? The responsibility of recovery? The responsibility and accountability to carry the message? See, the disciples were not only afraid of the storm, they were afraid of Jesus, who calmed the storm. You see, you would have never even attempted to get sober if the day didn't come that you were afraid to get high. See, there was a long period of 20-some years where I wasn't afraid to get high, but now I'm afraid to get high. So I had to be willing to walk through the storm of the steps, 1 through 9, to get to the calm of 10 through 12. Don't forget that God is in control. Don't forget that God is in control, and don't forget that you gave Him the control in step 3. But I want to talk to you about another storm. Another storm, when Jesus got through this storm, that's when they left the one area and they traveled to another area of Gadarenes, and they came across not a storm in the water, but a storm in a man. And this man now in Mark 5, when Jesus stepped foot in Gadarenes, that he made it through the storm of Mark 4 to get to the new territory of Gadarenes. But when he got there, a man met him. And this man had lived in the tombs. You know how they do us addicts. After we hurt everybody, they cut us off. And they put us somewhere so they don't have to deal with us. And you have to know that that's the devil's objective. After you hurt your family and everyone in society, they put you in a tomb where you cut yourself. Read the screen. Because once the devil can get you by yourself, he takes pleasure in watching you hurt yourself. Isn't it something that us tough guys and tough girls in the streets hurt ourselves? You see, this man had demonic influences, and it reminds me of the chaos of addiction. Don't think for a minute those devils weren't on you. Yeah, this was real fun that night at the bar with the normies until everyone went home and I went to the hotel and stayed up for 2 weeks. Yeah, it was real fun, but this is what it looked like the next day. Yeah, we had a real good time early on in our partying days, but everybody else grew up and lived a normal life. And the ones that were in these pictures with me, they got jobs and careers, but I'm in the crack house. So this man meets Jesus, and he's no different than us. And society wrote him off. And Jesus steps foot, and when he saw the man, but more importantly, the man saw him, and he didn't go to the man came to him. I didn't. When I got here, I ran to Jesus. Because one thing you need to know about Jesus is the storm needs to bow down to Jesus. No different than steps 1 through 9 and the calm of 10 through 12. When you bow down to Jesus and the demons inside of you bow down to Jesus, there's a calm. There's a calm just like this field where you can hear the wind blow through the grass. You see, your addiction needs to bow down to Jesus. But the question I have for you is, have you brought your storm, your demons, your addiction to Jesus? See, this is chill. I am experiencing in this moment peace that doesn't make sense. Calmness that is kind of scary. And maybe that's why I was afraid of my freedom. Because I didn't know what calmness was. I didn't know what peace was. So when I got a little taste of it, I had to go back to the chaos. So he shouted at the top of his lungs, the demon said, in the man, because Jesus wasn't talking to the man, he was talking to the demon in the man. And the demon was pleading with Jesus not to torture him, being the demon. Let me tell you something. It tortures a demon when it has to leave you. The demon feels like it's being tortured when it has to leave you, because the demon can only work with a host. And I think to myself, for all those years, I hosted demons in my addiction without even knowing I was a host. See, this demonic influence, as Jesus had this conversation with the demons in the man, he asked them, what are you? They said, we are legion. We all know about this demonic influence that runs wild in addiction and in recovery. And the demon says back to Jesus, we are legion, we are many. Doesn't really tell Jesus the name of the demons, but a legion means over 6,000 in the Roman army at that time. Let me ask you a question. What's so special about you that the devil would send a legion of demons to try to stop you from living? See, you almost got to look at that as a compliment. that the devil tried to destroy me in my addiction, and he sent a legion of demons to live inside of me, and I let them in without even knowing I was letting them in. And how do I know I let them in? Because I was a drug dealer, I was a drug addict, I ran the streets, I was about the drug life. I would lie, I would manipulate, all the characteristics of demons. Why would the devil be so concerned about me that he would send a legion? So the question I have for you is, why is the devil so concerned about you that he would send some of his special forces to try to kill you and kill your family and kill your destiny and kill your purpose and kill your livelihood and eventually kill you? It's a question you should ask yourself, because the answer to that question is God has got an incredible life on the other side of the bridge for you. But you have to cross over. And you've got examples in your midst that have crossed over, and now they realize why the devil had an assignment on them. So here it is, this demonic influence. But now the demons, they don't even care about the man, they just care about the region so much. It's not really about you, addiction. It's much bigger than you. It's just not trying to kill you. It's trying to kill everything about you. So the demons asked Jesus not to leave the region. So after the devil gets done with you, he's going to your family. You see, the assignment really isn't just about you. It's about the next you. And if the devil can get you, the devil can get your son. You remember these pictures before that we used to take with our kids. Because once you say yes to addiction, the devil has access to them. Oh, I remember this photo when my kids were little, when I was gone for a year, showed up in handcuffs, about 120 pounds, soaking wet. Is that you, Dad? Dad, where have you been? Why did you leave us? Do you not love us? Don't forget that. Don't forget this look. That's why you have to cross over. You don't ever want them to have that perplexed look thinking you don't love them. You see, with my kids, I really wasn't there to teach them how to ride a bike because I wasn't willing to cross over. So their mom had to teach them how to do manly things. And I don't say any of this to make you feel worse than you already do about yourself. But I am saying this to tell you, if you don't cross over. But today, my kids have me in their life. I can't undo what is done, but they got me back, and they got the best version of me, and they were willing to take it and wait for it. It's not just about you. It's about who the devil can access through you. If he can get in you, he can access your family through you. Just something to think about if you're still debating about crossing over. So those tending to the pigs now, the demon said, Jesus, we'll leave the man, but we don't want to leave the area. I'll leave Jeff, but I want access to his kids. Because if I can get access to his kids, then I can get access to their kids and their kids. And no different than this story that the demons and Jesus let the demons go. now the demons in one man entered 2,000 pigs. And Jesus wanted to show the people what demons do. The 2,000 pigs ran back. Oh, wow, this is cool. He just gave me something. They ran down a hill into the lake, the very same lake that the devil tried to kill Jesus with on his way to the area. Now Jesus uses the very same lake to send the pigs into to kill the demons. You know, it makes me think about my life. Addiction tried to kill me, and now I'm killing it. Not just in me, but in a lot of people by teaching them about these things. But that's not what God just gave me. Why would pigs run into a lake? Pigs don't swim. I mean, they could go anywhere on the land and be okay, but they ran into the lake and drowned. Because when the devil's in you, you do things that you typically wouldn't do. Just like the pigs did. They ran to a lake and drowned because they couldn't swim. When the devil's in you, you do things that are not really you. So the 2,000 pigs were in one man. Those demons went in 2,000 pigs and they went. Because here's the thing. Now this man was restored. That previously was possessed by a legion of demons. He was sitting dressed, because when you get sober, you start looking a little better. You start dressing a little better. You start sounding a little better. You definitely start doing a little better. And here's all the people in the city said, holy cow, this guy used to live in the tombs. We had to kick him out of the city, and now he's dressed right, in his right mind. Read the screen. Check out. And they were afraid. People may become afraid of your freedom. It's almost like the people in this city would rather have the man in the tomb than to have a man full of Jesus. And you'll experience that in your families too. They were afraid. And they told everybody what happened because there was restoration happening. So instead of that perplexed look, you get a job, you get a vehicle, you eventually get a home, and you got your family back. There's restoration. And then the man comes. The man comes, and he asks Jesus if he can go with him, but then the people began to plead with Jesus to leave the area. It was just too much overkill. And maybe that's what you feel in your meetings. It's just too much. I can't let Jesus in. It's just too much. I'd rather be in the tomb. These meetings are too much. Working the steps are just too much. Having a sponsor is just too much. Serving is just too much. If you think that's too much, I think you forgot where you came from. See, are you willing to walk through the storm of the first 9 steps to get to the calm of steps 10 through 12? But the people had asked Jesus to leave the region because it's just too much. So the man asked Jesus to go with him. He wanted to go with Jesus, and Jesus said, no, you stay here, because you know what? Jesus was doing this on purpose, and Jesus wants to free you on purpose, because Jesus has got people for you to teach what freedom is, and here's one person that can change 10 cities, because in Gadarenes is Decapolis, where it's 10 cities, 10 Greek cities. And one man is now called to change 10 cities. Jesus says, hold up, you're staying here. I need you to tell the people what I did. And when the man told the people what he did, what happened was he was carrying the message. One man changed 10 cities. And the people were amazed. See, when you carry the message in your meetings, look at the looks on these people's faces. You did what, and now you're what? You did what, and you go and you meet with your sponsor, and they're amazed at your progress. You meet with your friends and say, yeah, I crossed over. I was once addicted, and now I'm free. And maybe you will even get some public speaking opportunities because Jesus freed you to help free someone else. Just like the demon, it wasn't about you. The demon knew if they could keep you addicted, you couldn't carry the message. But when Jesus frees you, just like the demon doesn't stop with you, well, Jesus don't stop with you either. He wants you to carry the message. So once you gain this ground, you cannot lose ground again, because the next scripture reads, once a demon leaves a person and it goes to arid, dry places where the demon doesn't have any interest, the demon is interested in you, but the demon comes back to check on you and finds that you're not walking through the storm of the first 9 steps. And you clearly have not experienced the calmness of steps 10 through 12. And the demon comes back and says, oh, he's just sober. He ain't free. He ain't even going to meetings. Quite frankly, he's complaining about the meetings. Well, he ain't the same guy when he checked into Serenity Homes or girl. He ain't the same guy when he checked into BSM when he was so grateful. He's now ornery and complaining and gossiping and just totally disrespectful. And the demon comes back and sees you in that condition. Well, he says, hold up, man. Jesus did free him, but now, he ain't even working a program. And then here's what the demon does. Read the scripture. The demon brings 7 more powerful demons with him that were more powerful than the original addiction. And it says, and then the final condition. This could be your last chance. Read the screen. It says final. See, you pick up where you left off. And worse, you know that, I know that. 7 more demons. But read the scripture. I want to focus on that word condition. It doesn't say the condition gets worse. Read the scripture on the screen. It says the final condition. This could be your last chance to cross over. It's important that you know that these key truths in the Bible that you've already seen in your life are true. So it's time to get up and stay up. Now here's another storm. Matthew 14, it takes faith to rise above your circumstances. In this case, Jesus left the disciples to go forward by themselves while he went off to pray. Because after he just fed 5,000 people, be careful. Because a lot of us are like me. You do good when things are bad, and you start doing bad when things get good. Ooh, that's good. I never said that before. That's real good. I was a sabotage artist. As long as I was on the color wheel and had to see the PO, I was great. I was working a program. As soon as they let me out, and my wife at the time let me back in the house, when I started experiencing good, I started doing bad again. But when I was dealing with consequences, I started doing good. Because you pick up where you left out. So Jesus just fed the 5,000. He had 2 fish and 5 loaves, and disciples were tired. I don't like being around people that get tired. You're going to roll with me, you don't get tired. The disciples were tired, and Jesus says, hey, we ain't done yet. All of a sudden, he busts out a miracle, feeds over 5,000. So here's Jesus. He tells them, I got to go pray, man. We just had a huge victory. And they go ahead, and a storm comes. And here they are, these seasoned fishermen. Here we are, these seasoned tough guys from the streets that are wimps in these rooms. Tough guys in the streets. Wimps in the recovery rooms. No different, tough guy fishermen, but now they're wimps on the water. And it absolutely blows my mind because they think they're going to die again, because sometimes working steps 1 through 9 feel like you're dying. But they're about ready to experience a miracle. And even though the waters are rough in steps 1 through 9, they were experiencing a miracle of Jesus walking towards them as Jesus was walking on water. See, when you do it Jesus' way, Jesus is already walking above your circumstances, your past. He walks above those things. So it was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And now Peter, Jesus says, I am here. He doesn't even recognize and say his voice. He says, I am here, because they wanted to know if they would know Jesus' voice. And Peter says, if it's you, call me out, which is talking about order. Right now, life may be rough, but here you are. And there's Jesus. And Peter is saying, Jesus, if it is you, maybe that's you tonight, and you're in the boat of your comfortable, chaotic self-pity. And Jesus is saying, come to me. And Peter's in the boat where it's safe. And to walk out of this and work steps 1 through 9, you see, he was focused on Jesus. When you work and you've got to focus on Jesus, but when you start to focus on your circumstances, you will sink. And Peter began to sink, because either you will rise or you will sink. And what happens is, when you don't focus on Jesus, you will feel like you're drowning in the 12 steps, and then Jesus will reach out his hand. And you need to grab his hand, because you're sinking working steps through 9. And then he'll walk you over to the boat. And here's the thing. When Jesus, thank you, I tried to do it my way. And he takes my hand again for the umpteenth time, and he brings me back to safety. And he joins me where I'm at. See, when you're working steps 1 through 9, you've got to be focused on Jesus. When you start focusing on your circumstances, you're going to sink. See, Peter had enough courage to get out of the boat. Because we have to understand, this is progress, not perfection. Peter progressed. He had enough courage to at least get out of the boat. But he didn't have enough faith to continue to walk on water. You will experience miracle after miracle if you're willing to progress in the process. So where are you at today? Ezekiel 36, the 12 steps will cleanse you. I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from your impurities and your idols. See, you have to know what's important. That the storm is not going on outside of you. The storm is coming from within you. So what we need to do to combat the storm going on within us, we got to renew our mind. We got to start taking care of our bodies. We got to work a spiritual program which will enlighten our soul. When you work steps 1 through 9, your impurities, which are your character defects, your shortcomings, your unforgiveness, your fears, your resentment, your pride, and your idols. You'll get to step 11, and you won't pray for anything else but the knowledge of his will and the power to carry it out. And you'll realize what is important. If you take care of these 4 areas, you're going to get a job. You're going to experience reconciliation in your family. You're going to get your finances back. It's an inside job. Luke 17, actions speak louder than words. And here now Jesus is teaching them about faith. He says, have faith in me, have faith in God. And he says, whatever you're facing, whatever you're facing, whatever that mountain may be for you today, have faith in God. And you can say to the mountain of your circumstances, Jesus says, whatever you ask for in prayer, and you believe it, and do not doubt, it will be done for you and that mountain will move. But the question I have for you is, are you the mountain? Are you the mountain that needs to move? Are you the one who has to get out of your own way to cross over? It isn't them, it isn't this, it isn't that, it's you. It ain't your PO, it ain't your judge, it ain't your ex, it ain't your husband, it ain't your wife, it ain't your old lady, it ain't your old man, it ain't your parents, it ain't your siblings, it isn't your consequences, it's you. That hurts. It's you. Oh, I got issues. You. That's the issue. It's you. It's me too. So if you do this, and maybe the prayer is that, you know what? God, get me out of the way. Get my carnal mind out of the way. My emotional roller coaster of my feelings out of the way. Get my fiend out of the way. Get my ism out of the way. But here's the thing, he won't do it unless you do steps 1 through 9. He'll walk right through you. He'll grab your hand just like you saw me do on the stage, and he'll take you right through it. And so will your sponsor, and so we will walk you right through it. We'll walk you right through it. You're not by yourself like you were in your addiction. But here's what God says, and this is step 9. But before you ask me, or after you ask me to move this mountain, which most likely is me, if you have unforgiveness in your heart, if you don't forgive, read the screen. God says, if you don't forgive them, I won't forgive you. I don't know about your list, but mine was pretty long. My list was pretty long. All these people that really I hurt, that I think hurt me. I mean, it was just too much. Just too much to forgive at the time, 35 years on the planet, I'm now 50. I don't want to forgive them because they won't forgive me. You can't control them. All you can control is you. And if God is in control of you, you give God the control. And you need to experience forgiveness, so you need to forgive them. You need to forgive them. And we understand that forgiveness is not an event, it's a process, but ask the Lord to help you to have the courage to forgive them. And you'll watch that mountain of you move right out of your life. And I'm going to close with this. John 10:10. Mike, grab this out of here. John 10:10. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But Jesus said, I came that you may have a life and have it where you actually will enjoy it. And you'll enjoy it so much that you'll be full. In your captivity, you're looking for other things to fill you other than Jesus. And he says to us, let me tell you something. The devil, he's done everything. He's already stole a lot from you. He's killed a lot from you, but he destroyed and stole, but he hasn't killed you yet. He hasn't killed you yet. So you got to cross over. You got to cross over. You got to cross over so you can have a life and your children can have a life and you'll actually enjoy it. So even though it is grueling, you might have to do it on your knees. Just get me over. I want to cross over to the other side. It's getting lighter. It's getting lighter. I'm getting my strength back. I can see my freedom. It was a lot of work to get here. I had to walk through the rain and the storm of 1 through 9. It was a lot of work to get here. And now that I'm here, my objective is one thing and one thing only, to look at the bridge that I crossed over into my freedom and put a step on it again. And for 16 years, I've looked over the bridge on families being destroyed and people dying of overdoses and people in prison and jail for the umpteenth time. I looked over the bridge because I didn't get free just for myself. I had to step on the bridge again. And I saw all the people still addicted. I'm not going back to the captivity. Once in a while on a 12-step, I'll do it. But I'll grab your hand. I'll grab your hand and pull you up on a bridge. But in a sense, I'm the bridge over troubled waters. I'm the bridge. I'm the one carrying the message. The miracle is your story and your sponsorship is now the bridge over their troubled waters. Sing it, Grace. Sometimes, when I get you halfway across the bridge, you want to sit down and talk about, you want to go back. I won't drag you across the bridge. I ain't gonna do it. So we sit down on the bridge and we have a discussion. Mike, I want you to go around that side. Because this young man, I had to have a discussion with him. And he came out of his captivity and he got on the bridge. And then he came on the bridge and he wanted to talk. And we had a discussion of what that is and what this is. And I said, get up. I said, you're walking into freedom with me. And for several years, Mike's been in freedom. And I told him, go back on the bridge and grab somebody else. And that's what this is, church. And he walked another addict across. And pretty soon we got addicts walking across the bridge. Somebody is cutting themselves right now and needs you to cross over or they're going to die. They're gonna die. And they're not gonna have, their kids are gonna lose them. They're gonna die. You gotta cross over. You gotta cross over. Lord, thank you for this time. Be with your people. Make this message fall on fertile ground. Make it sprout up and grow as the people walk across the bridge. In Jesus' name, amen.